5:15. Thank you all for coming to our LSC special meeting. As we always do, we start with the vision. The Bronzeville Classical School community intentionally values and highlights the strength of all members through providing a personalized learning experience, celebrating diversity, and practicing creative problem solving in order to cultivate a strong, celebrating program to nurture lifelong learners. The norms of the meeting are be result-oriented, be fully present, be respectful of others' time, assume the best intentions, and stay focused. BCS commits to the personalized growth and empowerment of all members. Again, today is Tuesday, April 30th, and it is 5:15 p.m. We'll start off with the roll call.
Stephen Mitchell,
Here.
Akira Barclay,
Here.
Charles Berry,
Here.
Joyce Brown, Blake Daniels, Blake Davis, Eugene Lewis,
Here.
Jennifer Lewis, here, Young Morris, here, Tamara Hoffman, Keith Seals, Reginald Spears, Nicole Spicer, here.
Okay, I move that we allow the board members present online to participate virtually. A second.
Second.
All right, any discussion? There being none, all those in favor of allowing them to participate online, please raise your hand. Any nays? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. The board members will be able to participate online.
So that is.
So for the record, Dr. Pope, Joyce Brown, and Keith Seals are virtual.
You guys, you okay? That's fine. So I can move up. So.
Okay, sure. So for the record, the members joining online are Dr. Pope, our community representative, Joyce Brown, one of our parent representatives, and Keith Seals, one of our other parent representatives.
So virtual at 5:18.
Yes.
All right, next we move on to the agenda. Did everybody get a copy of the agenda?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda. I'd like to add a fundraiser for the school, Friends of Bronzeville Spirit Gear. And second,
Second.
any discussion?
Where would you like to?
Joyce says. Yes. I made a motion that if we vote on it, you can vote no if you don't want us to do it, but the motion's been made and seconded, so.
It's time sensitive where we need to vote on it before the next committee.
Yes, it is, but I could just call a special meeting, I'll withdraw the motion.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, for something like that, this is not that major, but I just don't want us to make a habit of doing that. So but then again, I don't wanna set a precedence for it.
Okay, I withdraw the motion. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Did everybody get a chance to look at the agenda?
Yes.
All right, I move that we accept the agenda.
Second.
Motion been made and properly second. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor of approving the agenda as stated, please raise your hand.
Mr. Seals, Ms. Brown, and Dr. Pope. Yes.
All right, that passes. We'll move right on to the Saturday presentation.
Just to give a quick recap, 'cause I know you all you heard, Mr. Mitchell wanted to add the Friends of Bronzeville, fundraiser to the agenda. It was not included in the agenda that was posted 48 hours prior. So there was some discussion on whether we should add it as an item to discuss and vote on, or just to discuss. So, ultimately, based on the discussion, Mr. Mitchell decided to withdraw the motion, so we will not be adding it to the agenda. So I'm going to, share my, I wanna make sure LSC members at home can see my screen. And then, Mr. Spears, I need to share with you. Okay, so I'm sharing it right now. It's only 2 slides that we're going to look at. So we can get it, Mr. Spears. For those joining us virtually, it is slide 33 and 34. And LSC members virtual, can you all see my screen clearly?
So that's what I'm gonna tell them, just put it on this. It wasn't right. It wasn't worth the debate when we have a meeting coming up.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to share a quick update on our CIWP. The CIWP is written for a 2-year cycle. And so what we do every year is we update the implementation milestones. So the priorities stay the same, and then we just keep adding to the document because it's a living, breathing document. So when we originally passed our CIWP in 2024, we selected 2 priorities. One was in curriculum and instruction, specifically around tailoring the instruction, which really speaks to our 2 programmatic foci. One is the classical or the gifted part, and then the second piece is the personalized learning. A lot of this year was around structures and systems. Next year, we're really talking about implementation. The second priority, which we'll talk about next, is around connectedness and well-being. We really focused this past year on reestablishing our Tier 1 SEL support and instruction with Calm Classroom and Second Step, and then also introducing our PBIS program with the feathers that the students are earning towards different incentives and going to the store. So this upcoming year, again, just shifting in those same priority areas. So the first priority, we have 2 additional milestones that we'll be working on next school year. One is in the domain of planning and preparation. The second is in instruction. So the first one is really all about creating cognitively challenging tasks for individual students that require them to provide evidence for their reasoning. And so this really speaks to our PL practices through our short-term learning plans, conferencing, and our learner profiles. So those are our 3 signature practices that we'll still continue to integrate our challenging tasks. The second one is around instruction. So really focusing on formative instruction throughout the units to monitor learner progress on standards and make adjustments. So that's our first priority. The second priority, which speaks to our connectedness and well-being, really focuses on domain 2, which is our classroom environment. So creating classroom environments that establish trust, support, and collaborative action, resulting in risk-taking, resilience, and self-awareness. And then secondly, creating protocols so that we can track and monitor students for the purpose of identifying support academically as well as SEL needs. So those are some of the shifts for the next steps in our CIWP process. Are there any questions on that? This is going to become important when we talk about the budget, because how we allocate our funds for the budget should be tied to these priorities. All right, so I'm going to, LSC members, if I have questions. All right, LSC online, I'm going to switch my presentation. have this one, do I need to share it? I'll share it to the top of your email. So, all right, next on my agenda after going over this, I move that, the LSC approves our, implementation milestones for priority 1, priority 2 for SY 25.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Everybody.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. Priority 1 and 2.
Feel like everybody's super tight because they're going. I don't remember 11 situations. That's how I only got 52 votes.
Yeah, we'll move on to budget presentation.
Okay. Alright, so I'm going to start, the budget presentation by making a motion, for budget transfers up to $5,000, with a maximum aggregate of $60,000. I'm asking for that because we have to prioritize the remaining, funds in our budget to cover curriculum for next year. It probably is about 20 some odd small transfers that I have to put into the reading and math line. So rather than go through each of those 20, I'm asking that I'm able to transfer up to $5,000 for each transaction, but it will be no more than $60,000 total.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion?
So how is this different from previous discussions that we had about the transfer and the maximum?
So the previous, motion has expired, because that was for a specific period of time. That was for, writing school checks up to $5,000. This is transferring money from one budget line to another budget line to make specific purchases. And so remember, I have to put them on like specific supply lines for specific curriculum, whether it's digital or non-digital.
And this is critical in light of budget situation that we do this so that we can get stuff for next year, because as you see, we may not have money for next year.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure.
It was different, because we did this with checks, not with budget transfers.
Do you, is it a majority like paper product, like workbooks
It's
or
probably,
digital?
it's probably about 50-50. So the estimates I have right now for ELA, is probably half digital, half, paper. And so our ELA, quote is $21,550.41. And our math reboot with the expansion adoption for middle school and for algebra 1, is $29,651.86.
Mr. Spencer, will this be complete by next meeting, so we just have a final report on it?
Yes.
All right, any further discussion?
Oh, wait, our next meeting is.
Next week.
Next week.
I'll work on it, but if not, you'll never have it for Zoom, and I can email it. All we gotta do is our call meeting this
Yes,
time.
a
monthly.
special meeting.
Ms. Brown.
This is Tori, so I got a quick question. So in other words, so are these funds going to be allocated to your budget for the next year? Are you trying to absorb that separately? Am I understanding you correctly?
These are use it or lose it funds, and because they are spread across a number of budget lines, I'm trying to consolidate them in order to purchase the curriculum for next year, this fiscal year.
got it, that's what I thought he was saying, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any further discussion? All right, there being none, all those in favor of this, motion of budget transfer, please raise your hands.
Yes, everybody.
That motion passes. Next, we'll move on to, position enrollment.
Okay, I'm gonna, just advance the slides for.
This is all in the budget transfers.
Just,
These
just,
are people with
that's right here.
rules or have to. Which means it just might be a job.
Okay.
The one out there.
Okay. All right, so we have an audience today. I'm really happy that you all are here to support, to ask questions, because this is truly a difficult conversation. I have been sharing with pockets of staff that I've had to start having conversations with, that in 6 years, this really hasn't been our conversation here at Bronzeville. So I'm navigating this new situation. Mr. Spears is gonna help me by advancing. So I'm gonna start from the beginning. LSC, this is just a quick recap with the addition of the allocations because we did not have that at our normal LSC meeting this month. So these are our CIWP priorities that I talked about, just really talking about our professional development related to our PEO strategy, and then relaunching Second Step in Common Classroom in conjunction with PBIS awards to create the wellness and connectedness in our school community. Some context for our budget: the district is facing a $391 million deficit with the end of the federal money that came with COVID. There is no foreseeable additional income coming to the district, so they are working to ensure that the instructional core is able to continue to work. In recent years, you may have heard of student-based budgeting. This year, there was a dramatic shift or hard turn from just providing schools with buckets of money based on the number of students in the building. This year, there was an effort to develop a formula that was fully equity-based and gave schools what they needed. In an effort to increase transparency and equity, I will be sharing some of the formula with you in the coming slides. So the transparency is really just helping families know how and why resources are allocated to schools, helping school leaders and staff know how and why resources are allocated to the school, and then the district accounting for how and why resources are allocated. Yes?
I just want to make sure, language, the district, is that CPS?
That would be CPS, yes. So district and CPS are synonymous. Thank you. That is a great clarifying question. We typically, I wanna, and I hope that, the LSC will give me this privilege. This is a little bit of a different setting, so I think that it's okay. Like, if you have questions, please ask me along the way, so that I can make sure that I address all of your questions. Because this really is just a meeting for the budget, so please feel free to ask your question now, because we usually hold public comments at the end. But this is gonna be an interactive session, so we can answer all the questions. So again, in thinking about equity, making sure that not all the schools have the same thing, but schools really have what they need. Part of the way that they created or they determined what schools needed was based on the Opportunity Index. This is a presentation that I'll share through Parent Square and via email. This is a live hyperlink that will give you more information about the Opportunity Index. But there are 3 categories that they use, so community factors, demographics, and historical funding. The community factors are the socioeconomic environment in which the students live. The school demographics are the percentage of attending student population that fits in a particular category. And then historical funding, what has the school experienced over the years? So before I move on past the opportunity index, Mr. Mitchell, did you want to share a little bit about what we researched and what we found about the opportunity index?
Sure, so each school gets a number assigned to your school based on this opportunity index. We disagreed with the number that we received, so we wanted to know if we could appeal the opportunity index, as well as to come up with, to recreate the formula essentially that they use to come up with our community index. We were told that we were given sort of these categories, but we weren't necessarily, we were given specific numbers, but we weren't given the sources that they came from. So we weren't able to recreate to see how they came up with the number. So we wanted to find out how they did that, and they gave us a statement, basically what Ms. Spicer's presenting, and they also included sort of a broad statement that said these were some of the factors that we used to come up with the opportunity index. We asked if we could appeal that or if there was an appeal process, and we were told no, they don't have an appeal process for the opportunity index. So essentially we're stuck with the number that they gave us so far.
Are we able to find out what our number is?
Yes, I'm going to share that presentation. The other piece I want to draw attention to is that if you are a citywide magnet or a gifted or a classical school, this first number is already a little questionable because it says the socioeconomic environment in which the students attend, and we pull students from citywide. So I don't know if that community factor was based off where our students live or where our school is situated. So if you are a neighborhood school, that could be truer for your school environment, but for citywide schools, there could be discrepancies there. Some highlights. Oh, yeah. Oh.
Okay, so getting back to the comment that Mr. Mitchell was making about the appeal process, if I understood correctly, there were parameters for an appeal, we just did not meet the criteria.
That was
Did
for,
I miss something?
yes, that was for, the appeal you are referring to is for the budget appeal, not for the opportunity index. The opportunity index is, another measure.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
The question was, there is an appeals process, like if you got your budget and you felt like it wasn't enough or you didn't have what you needed, there was some criteria that, we had to meet in order to apply for, an appeal. That is completely separate from the opportunity index. The opportunity index is one of the indicators that dictates how much we get, and then the budget appeal is just appealing the actual dollar amount. I'll share in the presentation that we did actually apply for appeal, but it was denied. So some of the budget changes, we shifted away from student-based budgeting. All schools now receive like a foundational and centrally funded assistant principal. This was a huge win for most principals. We had to fund out of our discretionary funds our assistant principal position. So since we have been here, that has been a priority. But now that is a part of our foundational budget that doesn't come out of our local school budget. We also have centrally funded teaching positions based on a ratio. So again, the opportunity index dictates how many teachers we need in order to operate our school. And then lastly, the discretionary fund is need-based flexible funding, and then you can also get Title I money if eligible. We do not qualify for Title I funding. The other big thing about that, I just want to bring that here, is that with student-based budgeting, it was difficult to hire more experienced veteran CPS teachers because their salaries were higher. So when we had a bucket of money, we had to balance what we needed in terms of experience versus what we had available in our budgets. Now with the new formula, this is not as a barrier anymore. Yes?
I have a question. With Title I determination, how are they gonna, because I thought typically from a federal level, Title I is based on the district, which is 299, and District 299 is Title I.
That is an excellent question, Ms. Brooks. So yes, as a district, the number of schools that do qualify for free or reduced lunch that number is so high that as a district overall, we are considered a free and reduced lunch district, which is why we can offer free breakfast, free lunch for all students regardless of family income. However, each school has their own number, and our individual number doesn't qualify us. You have to have 50% or more of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. We're at 17%. Not to say that income has disqualified us, but we do have a significant number of families who opt not to apply. So in the beginning of the school year, when I'm hounding people for family income information forms, that is why.
I was gonna ask on my part two. So when we don't fill out those forms, and she can't say this, but I will say, they're not running your taxes to see if this is matching up. Fill out the form, turn the form in. It has a long-term impact on us.
This year was a little bit better. We got to 90%, but not 100%. Dr. Sims? Yes. So previously, we were given a certain dollar amount based on the number of students we had enrolled. So since we started the school, I had to determine I have X amount of dollars, X amount of teaching positions vacant. Who can I afford, essentially? And I was faced with making tough choices at times because I had a great teacher, but I didn't have enough funds to cover the salary. So moving to more of a quota-based formula helps remove that as a barrier.
So we're saying that now we will be able to hire and it won't affect
The best fit regardless of salary and benefits. Yes.
But wait.
Right, because it's some more, it's more.
With an asterisk, yes. We are.
I was gonna say, just hold
Very
on.
next slide, okay?
Hold on.
All right, so this is an overview of our budget. So last school year, we were projected to have 423 students. At the 20th day, we did have 423 students. Today, we have 421. Originally, they forgot for the past 6 years, like they always do, that we are growing another grade level. So they did not factor in the students who would roll over into 8th grade. So then we got a revised budget with a projected number of 448. We are going to be over that number because we do have a record number of 6th graders that are staying this year. Last year of the 58, 25 stayed. This year of the 59, I have 45 staying. So that shifted my plan because I was only planning for 1 7th grade, but now we have 2 7th grades, which also impacted my shuffling of the people so that we can maintain the same level of instructional support that we have. So I did like a little trend so that you could see. So foundational positions for the past 2 years were literally just a principal, the clerk, and a counselor. That was all the district paid for. My SBB dollars had to pay for everything else. Student-based budget. So each student had a particular dollar amount attached to them. Based on the 423 students, I got a pot of money. They said you don't have to pay for these 3 positions. Everything else has to come out of your budget. So now with us going to the new funding model, there is an additional position that is a part of the foundation. So the assistant principal is now part of the foundation. Past 2 years, we had an additional counselor. And I didn't say it, our opportunity index is 28. The lowest in the city is 14. The highest in the city is 52. I believe it's on a 0 to 60 scale. So the lowest is 0, the highest is 6. For the actual schools, the lowest in the district is 14, and the highest in the district is 52.
So you give more money, you want to have more.
Yeah.
A higher score. A higher score.
We're 28.
So, because our opportunity index, so that's what OI is less than 30, we are at a ratio of 1 to 600 for counseling. We lost a counseling position. We lost a counseling position.
For next year.
For next year. For core instructional positions, we started, and I know some of my BCS veterans will know that in 2023, that was the first year Ms. Keepers came out of the classroom as an interventionist. This past year, I got an additional interventionist and a personalized learning coordinator. This year, I only have a coordinator. Next year. For FY25, I only have a coordinator. Yes.
Can you explain what interventionists do briefly?
Sure. So if you are a 4th to 6th grade parent, you may have gotten an email that says, based on your child's test scores, they qualify for accelerated placement. So those students who qualify for accelerated placement were pulled out with the interventionist for reading and for math. Students who are kind of outside of our norm in terms of like iReady or classroom-based assessments and performance, the interventionist supported them. Because we had 2 this year, we were able to have Ms. Keepers just focus on reading, Mr. Marty just focus on math. Next year, I don't have those positions. Yes.
I know in previous meetings you disclosed this or talked about it. So basically the SY25 budget goes back to SY22 or SY21 in the levels. And I'm asking that question because part of this discussion about the budget is that for the last 2 years, we've got all schools have got extra funds from the ESSER funds.
Yes.
And we thought that money would be 3 years of money, and it's turning out to be 2 years of money.
Yes.
And so in changing from student-based budget to this foundational budget, we're going back to budget levels from pre-federal dollars.
Yes.
But it still changes the flexibility. The foundational budget still changes your ability to be flexible. I'm just clarifying that.
Yes.
In
But
space.
even before that, I mean, that's part of it, but we're losing more than just that as
Sure.
well.
But we were every school was always going to lose the ESSER money. So the determination by the city and the district and every city around the country made a different decision about how they would deploy those funds and what that would mean.
Yes.
In Chicago, they decided to put it into personnel.
Yes.
Personnel who are always going to have to shift to something else because that's just the way the federal money worked. It was an infusion of dollars that was going to eventually leave.
Yes.
So, some of it, not all of it, but some of it.
And I would say that I think that the district worked really, really hard to show how those additional positions impacted student performance across the district and hopes that we would get the funding we're supposed to get from ISB. But that has not happened. From the state. So that's state funded. So part of this issue is there is a state formula that all schools are supposed to be funded at from the state budget. The state has historically allocated those funds the way that they wanted to. So the funding levels that we should get from the state, we don't always reach those. They fall short every year. And I don't really know the answer to that, but we are not fully funded by the state, which is why that feeds into that $391 million deficit.
Yeah, P20 has been underfunded. Chicago has been underfunded in pre-K to college, to community college for 30, 40 years. So socialist Chicago doesn't get the money that conservative Rundle County gets because that's just the way the state legislators work. Traditionally, state legislators underfunded city colleges by a certain percentage for, again, 30, 40 years as far as I understand from those folks.
So while this is somewhat of a CPS issue, there is a bigger issue. That's the point I'm trying to make. So continuing on, so in SY23, and this has just kind of been our expansion, added 2 grade levels each year. So 2 years ago, we only needed 14 teachers because we were at 5th grade. Sixth grade, and then now we added seventh grade, and now we have eighth grade. So our core instructional teacher, full-time positions did go up to 18. Holistic teachers, that refers to our essential STEAM. So Spanish, art, music, PE, those have been at 4, well, 3 when we first started, but then we know Ms. Forrest came on part-time, so I was able to make her full-time a few years ago. So those positions have pretty much stayed at 4. Yes.
With the other positions that are being lost because of funding, if you're able to, and I'm just, again, this is just pie in the sky, if you're able to get grants or get any fundraising or what have you, are you allowed to leverage that towards something like that with putting back a staff member? If that is something that's able to be done between now and this.
So we are being really creative, and so I'll talk about some solutions toward the end of the presentation. But any grants or additional funding that we bring in, I would much rather that go towards like supplies, like things that we can purchase, because I would not want to have to fundraise for someone's salary.
No, I understand.
But yes, we are definitely looking at grants and other creative ways to fill in the gap. But yes. Yes.
So since the projected enrollment is long, if the school year starts with more students than you have been budgeted for, are you then allowed to appeal to place the funding for that, those additional students that were not accounted for?
So 2 things can happen. At the 20th day, which is why like the beginning of the school year attendance is important, because they pull attendance on the 20th day of attendance. Whatever that number is, if it is over this number, they will multiply it by our number, and that's $533. And I'll show you what that means. So whatever number we're over, they'll multiply that by $533, which is not as significant as it was when we had student-based budgeting. But with our opportunity index, our class size is supposed to be 1 to 26. Not meaning that there are going to be 26 students in the class, but that's what the formula is. If you have an opportunity index under 30, your ratio that they calculate the number of teaching positions you qualify for is 1 to 26. So that will also be factored in of whether or not we need an additional teacher. Here is our diverse learners. Our diverse learning team for SY23, this is the error, this should have been 3. Then last year I got an additional, upcoming year we are down to 2. These are the diverse learning teachers, so these are our teachers that work with students with special needs. So this is an error, so in 2023 I had 3, in 2024 I got an extra 1, and now we're down to 2. However, these positions don't come out of our budget, but there is a decrease. And so this will change how we provide services for our most vulnerable students.
Got a question?
Can you ask your question louder? There's a whole
Okay.
community.
Yeah, you're right,
Everybody
you're
can hear you.
The SY25 4 in yellow at the bottom, what does that mean?
That means that we keep Ms. Forrest, Mr. Spears, Mr. Kendall, and Ms. Lyons.
Yay.
Yes.
The diverse learner student, does it have anything to do with how many we have, and is that changing?
Yes. So there was a data pool. They calculate the number of service minutes we provide, and then the number of students on our caseload. We do have a small number of diverse learning students. However, all of their minutes are in LRE 1 or inside the general education classroom. So 2 people won't be able to juggle the schedules that are different from all the grade levels. So the middle school is on a completely different schedule than my 2nd through 5th grade team, and then my 2nd through 5th grade team is on a different schedule from K and 1. So K and 1 is on the schedule, 2 to 5 is on the schedule, and middle school is on the schedule. We are already in the appeals process to get at least 1 additional teacher added back because of those schedule conflicts, but that is pending. No decision has been provided at that time. The special education classroom assistants, we've had consistently 4 over the past 3 years. That should stay the same. Because of some new diverse learners, we were approved at the network level to apply for 2 additional special education classroom assistants. I am waiting on a district response. We've submitted the appeal to the network, which is the first step. We got the approval there. And now we're just waiting on the district to approve it and provide those positions. Yeah.
Is that, do those diverse learners, are those like parent initiated 504 plans?
So it could be a student that has a behavior concern, a student has a learning disability. It can be initiated by the school or the parent.
Are there more kids that need to be in that category?
We are working on need base. And so I do say that, we did add some students this year. So that is a ongoing process. So as we meet students, as we get to know them, as they get older, sometimes needs emerge, sometimes they get better. So we have some students who only have a speech-only IEP. So as they get older, they grow out of that, or the therapy has worked, so they come off the IEP. But then we have some students like, we thought in kindergarten, it was just developmental. But no, this is something else. And so that happens all the time.
And you guys, just so you know, the reason she was giving you kind of like the schedule's not matching up, if they require a certain amount of minutes at the same time during that same block, then somebody can't get it. And that happens throughout the day, so that's a big problem.
And so the appeals process, they will make sure, because those are legal documents. So if the student has a 504 or IEP, those are mandated services. Those are services that are not optional. So these are some of our discretionary funded positions. So when I get into some of the dollar amounts, this will make sense. So we have a number of instructional support staff that don't come in a foundational position. They come as schools designate in order to support the instructional program. So back in 2023, I had 2 hourly folks. That was, I won't say names, but I had 2 hourly folks. You'll see this year I did not have any hourly people, and then next year I'm gonna have 2 hourly people that I pay for out of our discretionary funds. We do have an additional person that is a part of our district positions. So there'll be 3 people, but 2 of the 3 I pay for.
And they'll be doing what?
So they do lunch, they do recess, somebody's running late, they watching the class. In the morning, they're standing at the door to make sure kids get in on time. They do all the extra stuff. They pick up lunch bins, they drop off lunch bins, they do it all. They cover the main office, you name it, they do it.
And why didn't we have any this past year?
Because I was able to afford to give those people full-time positions. But because our funding is not there, I am no longer able to offer those 2 individuals full-time benefits. So if they are going to stay at BCS, they go from full-time to essentially part-time. So that's.
So we had them,
Right.
but they were full-time employees with benefits. And then next year, they'll go and be hourly part-time employees.
With no benefits.
Right now, they're teacher assistants. Next year, they'll be miscellaneous employees. Since we have opened, we have always started early, ended late, so I do fund extra security guards, so there's someone here from the time we open to the time we close. And then this goes to the teacher assistant and instructional assistant that I talked about. When we opened the school in 2018, I only had 1. As our program evolved, I added 2, so this year we have 3. And then again, you see next year, I'm no longer able to fund a teacher assistant or instructional assistant. They will have to be part-time. You'll notice that that number is off, 1 person is missing from there. I'm not able to do 3. I'm only able to do 2. However, if those special education classroom assistant positions are available, I would be able to offer that to one of the people that may be impacted.
So what does that mean for
After school, nothing, this is the regular school day. Mr. Cook is still here, so it doesn't mean anything for after school.
And how was it decided
discretion.
But this year, I have lots of less discretion. I don't know if that makes sense. Much less
A lot less.
discretion. So this is our formula, again, talking about our projected enrollment, what our opportunity index is. These are our foundational positions. So these are all the positions that I talked about that are provided by the district. And so that's the third miscellaneous person is listed here. So these are just the tables from our budget handout. So opportunity index, the number of students, which means that our student to teacher ratio, which we previously discussed, 26:1, which means we are eligible for 18 core instructional teachers, and then 4 holistic teachers. So core teachers are determined by enrollment divided by student to teacher ratio, and then holistic teachers, total classroom teachers divided by 5 with a floor of 3. So everybody has at least 3, but because we have so many classes, we got the formula. Additional methodology, so I think one of my moms asked me about 20th day funds. So everybody starts at $365. For every opportunity index point above 14, and that's because 14 is the lowest in the district. So every point above 14, we get an additional $12. So that means our rate is $533. So any student that goes over our projection will get an additional $533. Every school started, well, not every school. If your opportunity index is less than 40, there was a floor of $140,000. So no matter how big, how small you are, everybody got $140,000. If your opportunity index is greater than 40, you started at $180,000. And then they added that per student rate. So we started with 140,000 times this 533, and that's how we got $238,784 for discretionary funds. Everybody with me? And you'll see this nice highlight because I was supposed to put the Title I funding table there, but we don't have Title I funds.
And that's significant.
What's the title?
Less money.
I mean, but what are Title
Oh, so if you have 50% or more of your student population are eligible for free or reduced lunch.
And that also means that there are schools who are losing in their budget like we are, that have something else to pull from that we don't.
Yes, that is correct. This is level 1 support. So based on the type of school we are, our school qualifies for $17,000. This will help for extended day. So for instructional leadership team, if you're on the behavior health team, if you're on the culture and climate team. So I'm able to pay teachers and staff overtime out of this bucket. We received a similar amount this school year for tiered support. Our special education enrollment, all of our students are at LRE 1. When they pulled this on March 4th of this year, we were at 15. We're probably at 17 or 18 now. So this could change some of our funding. We could get additional dollars that way. Again, our special education allocations, we had 4, we're down to 2. We kept our paraprofessionals, so our staffing for diverse learners is 6, down from 8. We have.
Excuse me, Mrs. Street, are you controlling the slides for the people at home or here? They're saying they can't see.
I'm controlling slides for people at home. This is this.
Dr. Post, this is big.
Dr. Cope is there. If she's on the YouTube,
She-
she's there.
So I'm sure people are probably reaching out to Dr. Cole saying that they can't see.
Dr.
But-
Pope is on a different.
Mr. Mitchell is controlling it from me here.
George is saying she's getting here.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
So Dr. Pope and Joyce are the same.
Okay.
Because they're on.
So we only have one student who
Get
is
it in
an
Google
English language
Drive.
learner. So we don't qualify for, or we don't need a required ESL or bilingual endorsed teacher. And then we give $450 to support that one student. We have one personalized learning coordinator that I previously talked about based on our programmatic focus. We keep our lunchroom staff, so we maintain a manager, cook, and a porter. And then the district pays for one of our 2 security officers. This is, we don't qualify for tutor courts. We did receive OST funds for this summer. The fall application has not come out, but we did not receive the same amount from last year. We have our social worker essentially funded. This year we had a social worker for 2.5 days. We haven't received those assignments for next school year yet, so I don't know. We had a nurse this year for 2 days, but because another school had a type 1 diabetic, and we did not, he has really been our virtual nurse because he's had to be stationed at the other school. Custodians, I have not heard what our staffing is going to look like, but we have 4 custodians, 2 board, 2 private. We have 1 building engineer, and then we don't have any field support services. This year, the district is paying for a full day of tech support. Next year, they are paying for a half a year. If we want to have a full day, that's an additional $9,360. Now get into our spending. So I want to give you somewhat of an estimated historical funding and spending. I say estimated because when I pull my budget, all the budget lines are included. So our teachers, as members of CTU, they get $250 of supply money. So I have to take that out. Sometimes we have building repairs that our building engineer processes. I have to take that out. So this is not exact. This is Ms. Spicer's best, pulling the budget lines and adding up and subtracting. So in supplies, we had a budget of $109,023.11 in SY22. We spent about $85,000 of that. Last year, I had a budget of about $45,000 for supplies, and what's current, the current is what's left. So we only have $7,000 left of the $45,000 for discretionary funds. And so when you see these large numbers, it's because we had student-based budgeting. So I had control pretty much over all the positions. So we started in SY23 with $344,000. We spent about $262,000 of that. This past year, we had about $254,000, and what's left is about $86,000. And so you heard me earlier have the LSC approve budget transfers. So those are the funds that I'm going to use for the curriculum that we previously discussed. FY20 is at the bottom. I was able to allocate $20,000 for supplies. Extended day is $35,000, and then the remaining discretionary funds I have was $62,000. Yes.
So the difference between the 23 and the 24, even though we had more students that next year, what was the decrease in that? Was that pandemic COVID funds, or?
It wasn't. So this number went down because I used it to buy those positions that I talked about. So because I bought those positions, we had less money for just stuff because I invested in personnel. Yeah, great question. The other thing I do want you all to know is that this bottom, if you add up those numbers, it should be like around $97,000. So you saw that on my little budgeting formula, I had about $260,000 in discretionary funds. So after I had the hourly employees, after I paid for the evening security guard, I was left with about $97,000.
In the previous discussion, you said you used to have to pay for pull out of your budget for your AP. Did that come from that discretionary number
Yes.
previously?
So here, these numbers, I paid for the assistant principal position out of that. Yes. So the actual amount that went to supplies was significantly smaller because I was paying for that position. And then here, if you all remember, Ms. Talley wasn't here for some time. And so I did not open an AP position until a little bit down the line.
What's the average salary for a teaching assistant? That full-time position? I don't want to get into me like
With
pockets.
benefits?
Yeah, with benefits.
Probably about 60,000.
How it hits out your budget, 60.
So the way we've allocated what was left, so I looked at my curriculum budget. Okay, what did I budget last year? This is how much I budgeted. This is how much I spent. So a little bit more than 10,000 left, and again, we'll use that for next year. This upcoming school year, I only had 27,000 to budget. So I've broken that down to 10,000 for math, 10,000 for reading, 2,500 for science, and then I wanted to make sure our holistic teachers have budgets as well. So Mr. Spears got a little bit more than everybody else because he has instruments. So repairs and supplies for those instruments, art, PE, health, and speech. The instructional budget, so again, after I broke everything down, I was left with about $97,000. The current spend, ignore this number, but this number is the 35,000 that I have left. So with the 35,000 on this slide, the extended day, I'm explaining what that is allocated for. So extended day, so for our instructional support staff, if they work overtime, I have to pay them. Any special events, we have a sub bucket for professional development. So once a quarter, I do give the teachers a full day to be released to do planning. So that's to cover the substitute costs for that. And then school-wide committees or special events, extended day to pay the teachers, 10,000. So that's a 35,000. So questions? I know that was a lot of numbers. Oh.
Question, based on what you spent, this past year and what you now have budgeted, how much is the loss or difference there? Cause I can see like some of your budgets were large, you didn't spend all of it, so like what you're allocating for this upcoming year, what really was a loss in regards to actual spend?
I can't really quantify it. And the reason why I can't quantify it is because previously I had a bucket of money, so I knew how much everything cost. And so now, because they are positions, I don't really know the cost associated with each position, so I wasn't able to do an apples to apples comparison. So what I tried to do, I had Ms. Jones pull the supplies and say, okay, Ms. Jones, like, how much did we just spend on supplies, period? And so she was able to give me that. And then I was able to say, okay, well, how much did I spend, or how much did I allocate for overtime for folks? So I was able to look at different categories to try to compare, because those things will be the same moving forward. So as much as I wanted to, I could not really determine how much that actual number is, but it feels very much like a loss in every category.
So I think I'm probably piggybacking off of what she said. So I think our biggest concern is next year we're operating at a deficit because we're losing all these positions. So what would we need to make like if we don't have a dollar amount?
We
Like,
do have a dollar amount.
Okay.
So yes, so in terms of personnel, BCS is really fortunate to have a really dynamic staff. So I've been having conversations with people, and Mr. Spears has been working really, really hard with the master schedule committee, so that it's over there by Mr. Lewis. I've been working with the master schedule committee so that I can, of those FTE positions, I could absorb our interventions. However, because of the number of seventh graders I need another teacher on a team. So we are looking at the master schedule to figure out how can we best use those full-time teaching positions. They will have to teach some classes, but I'm trying to create a schedule where they will be free for part of the day to still do those reading and math interventions and acceleration. I have probably about 15 families that I need to call and say, I don't know what's going to happen with acceleration. The reason why I have to have those conversations with families so that they know what to expect is because this year we have a person who that is a part of their job duties Next year, I don't necessarily have a free person in order to do that. We explored a couple different models of like, if you are in 5th grade and you qualify for acceleration, you can just go to the 6th grade class. That's not a feasible model for us because at BCS, our class size is at the top of the continuum. And so teachers would not be happy to have more students than they're supposed to have, and an additional prep. So not only am I preparing for my expected whole group lesson and small group instruction, you now have to plan for and implement accelerated instruction. And I foresee that being a problem, especially with the collective bargaining agreement. So I need to start having conversations because I really don't know until the dust settles what that's going to look like. So while all may not be lost, it will be a significant change to how we deliver services, especially to our students who need additional supports or acceleration, because we have students on both ends of the spectrum.
When she said, top of the continuum, per the union contract, you can only have a certain amount of kids in the class. If you add another grade, say third going to fourth, that would take them over that amount, so they can't do it.
Dr. Sue?
Appreciate the LSC board, feeling certain things, that's very strategic, I do appreciate that. Hope you all can maintain that energy on behalf of BCS. I have gone to some of the meetings and actually talked to some board members, and I know you can also go to their office hours. I don't want too late to keep pushing, but they do have to report the times at the office hours, so maybe that, but my question also centered around lieutenant interventionists. I just wanted to put a plug in for class 232. I know we have to support the whole school. I know it's a tough job, but I know as a parent of that class, it has challenges back to back with 3rd grade and 4th grade, and we really need those interventionists. We could not do this without them in our class over this year, to be quite frankly, my point of view. And so I just want to put that out there. I hope that one is a good break on losing other people that come to that class.
Thank you, Dr. Sims, for that.
I just wonder if you have a dollar amount of what the deficit is for the parents who have not yet paid their school fees for the 2023-24 school year. And I'm wondering if that dollar amount is enough to cover some of the deficit if everyone paid their fees.
Yeah, so that is an excellent point. At Bronzeville, we are fortunate enough to have a school community that supports a student fee. My last calculation, which was at our April 17th meeting, we had received $46,000 in student fees. That $46,000 equates to 25 families paying the family rate of $400, and then 144 families paying for one student at $36,000. So with 25 and 144, that is 169 out of our 421 families who have paid their student fees. That is only 40%. So if we got the other 60% of our families to pay their student fees, that could be an additional $59,250. Currently, there are 3 major priorities that I'm trying to fund. One is our reading adoption, which is $21,005. Our math adoption, which is $29,006. And then iReady, the full suite, which is $29,100. So I have probably enough for the math and the reading adoption, but we will be short the $30,000 for iReady. There also is an engineering curriculum that we wanted to get for science, which is $15,000. So if I had to say a short and a long-term goal, the short-term goal is the $59,000, which is our student fees. The long-term fundraising goal that we need to hit is $45,000, and that will just give us the basic need for reading, math, and science.
So the iReady is for K to
Yes.
Does the district pays for K-2?
So another great point. So if you have students at another CPS school, it is quite possible that your child kindergarten through second grade may take the iReady assessment, and then students 3rd through 8th take the STAR 360 assessment. At BCS, when we talk to our PPLC and we talk to our teacher teams, they wanted one data source. So as you can imagine, if a student is transitioning from 2nd to 3rd grade, I have iReady scores, then I have STAR 360 scores. They are not equivalent, so there's some extra learning that teachers at those grade levels have to do in order to have those vertical conversations. So to ensure that we can have those collaborative vertical conversations, we did opt as a school to get iReady. Now, because we are BCS, we did not get the basic package. We did get the premium package, which comes with the teacher's toolkit, because after you get the scores, now what? If families ask me, this is where my child's performing, what resources can you provide me? What is the stretch? What can I tell the tutor? What can I work with them at home? So we did purchase the toolkit. So that $29,000 includes the additional costs for the assessment for 3rd through 8th grade students, as well as the teacher resources that come with it. So if we did not get the premium package, that number could come down, and we could just make sure that we have the same assessment, but that's why it's $29,000. And that was a great question, Ms. Lewis. I also want to just be fully transparent and say this. Some of the curricular decisions that we make in BCS are extra. I want to be very transparent and honest with that. We do have Skyline available through the district that's pretty much free of cost, with the exception of like printing. If we had to print, we do use it for science and for social studies, which is why our middle school science teacher wants a supplemental curriculum for the engineering piece to just kind of add to the science experience for middle school. But in social studies, it's working just fine. Science is working just fine. We have not had to use it in ELA because we have a curriculum. In math, we did pilot it for the middle school. Our parents did not like it, our teachers do not like it, and not because it's not rigorous. It is rigorous, but it really is bare bones because it's the first couple of years of adoption. So the parent newsletter, the parent resources, the deep banks of problem sets that kids can practice, the textbook that you come home like, okay, what is this new math? And you all know I don't use new math, but you say, what is this new math? There is no book for a family to go through and say, okay, you need help. Let me look at how you were taught, and now I can help you, because it's an all digital platform. So for that reason, we have not opted into Skyline. So from a district standpoint and full transparency, some of these expenditures are nice to have, but not necessities. So I do want to be very honest and transparent, but to create or to maintain the school community that we have created, these are some of the sacrifices that I've chosen to prioritize and to invest in.
I think there's also a way to think about how the BCS community just leverages, like now we have to think about partnerships differently. And I can say, I know people at the table do, people on this, having previously worked at the University of Chicago, they love to work with schools with smart kids. They're not gonna, I'm just straight trans, they're not gonna work with Beethoven, because it's difficult to work with a school that needs more support and more work. That's just how they normally operate. And so finding some resources for upper grade students, I think this would be more 5th through 8th grade, because they used to work only with high school and now they've kind of moved down. So I think there's also some strategy around getting this information in the time that schools have gotten it, and then how we attempt to leverage those partnerships and what that looks like and who we can support. So you say engineering, there's 3 different engineering groups that would love to supplement that curriculum and bring some real molecular engineering scientists to come work with kids at BCS, because they'll get into that. They're connected up.
We work with ComEd and the mechanical engineers right now in a partnership that way. So I do agree. So it doesn't always have to equate to dollars. I do want to say with fewer discretionary dollars. Some things that I am no longer gonna be able to do. So, we used to subsidize field trips so nobody misses out. So you notice like just recently this year, we did add a transportation fee because school buses have been off the chain. And there are surcharge fuels, so it just makes the charters more expensive. But I'm no longer gonna be able to charge families $10 or $14 for a field trip. If it costs $20 to get in and $15 to the bus, I have to pass that cost on to families. I finally found a mentoring program for the boys. That contract this year was gonna be about $7,800. I cannot fund that contract because I gotta buy curriculum. Next year, Ladies of Virtue have been servicing 4th through 7th grade girls. I can no longer afford that partnership because it costs. This year, we supported our 7th grade students with high school admissions test tutoring during the school day. I can no longer fund that. Our staff retreat, we will not be able to do. Mother's Day, Father's Day, we will not be able to do. Next year, Black History Month celebration will look different. This year, because unfortunately Ms. Lyons isn't here, we're not doing International Fest, but that too will also look different. Last year, this current year, I was able to give each teacher a case of paper every quarter so that paper is not a commodity in the building. I can no longer afford that. We will go down to a half day of tech support because I can't afford the additional contract of $9,600. And then for my kiddos in 2nd through 5th grade, we partnered with the Kids Science Lab this year. And so they have been coming in the student, they come in every week, but every other week they get to go to the lab and do a live experiment. So those are just some of the things that I can think of that are no longer.
I think that I speak for myself, but I speak just talking to other parents. I think the big reason why we're here is we want to know, like, as a parent community, what can we do to make sure that we're not having to give up all of those things? Because I think that a lot of the things that you mentioned is why we like BCS and what makes it the community that it is. So, just let us know numbers. What do we need to fundraise? What do we need to do? And then, especially as from parents and different organizations, PTA, Friends of Bronzeville, we can come together as a community and speak up.
So the first thing is I need you to talk to the community and say pay your student fees. That's
that's
basic, that's number one.
That's
So please pay your student fees. The second thing I would say, the floor for fundraising right now is $45,000. Anything above that, we'll be able to fund some additional things.
Right, so after tonight, and we've kind of talked about this, the friends of and other parents, we're basically gonna come up with a short term that we need to get like within a certain amount of time, and a medium term and a long term, but we just wanna coordinate that and make sure we're not overlapping. And we have sort of definitive numbers that we're working with, but we just wanna make sure we get through this meeting, and trust me, we're gonna be reaching out, and we're gonna be, evaluating every resource possible to try and raise as much as we can, because we want to preserve as much of that Bronzeville classical community that we've created as possible. So we'll definitely be reaching out.
Mr. Mitchell has promised me that he is going to ensure that he communicates how we can advocate as a school community. As a principal, my role is to, fight for and stand for and communicate and advocate for what I feel like we need as a school community. But I think that it's important to say that we have some extras that without those extras, this could be okay. But I know that this is not okay for our school community. So Mr. Mitchell is probably really going to lead that advocacy through the school community. Again, I am doing everything that I can to exhaust all avenues to me. So making sure I connect with the equity office to see what we can do with the opportunity index, making sure that, I file for the budget appeal, making sure that I'm following through with the LSC appeal. So anything that's within my locus of control, I'm definitely doing for our school community. Mr. Mitchell and the council can leverage other relationships But
I had a question around student fees, because we're gonna start to network and make sure that we get some of those fees in. Is that going, so you get it this year and then we can allocate it for next year, or would we lose it?
because student fees are different, it goes into a different account, so those funds just roll over.
Okay.
And can you remind me, you said 400 for family and how much for a single?
250. I said we apply for it, we got this.
Still think $45,000 is a hefty conversation budget for a public school.
I don't have
Oh, Ms. Lewis, got let it in because you are the organizer of the calendar invite. But she needs to make sure she's in the right email account. Make sure she's in the right
Well,
email
I
account.
sent the YouTube link so she could at least watch the meeting, but she got booted out.
All right,
Oh, you
Chair,
get
are you
booted
gonna,
out of the
close
YouTube?
discussion? I think Dr. Beard has a comment, and then we have one more, and then maybe we can move to close the discussion.
So we have been talking about for the eighth graders, we have been, test. And so, we have been talking about, partnering with King and possibly getting some, high school credits. How does this impact, when we do that, we have to pay for support and pay those teachers, or how does that work?
So, Dr. Beard is referring to, some partnership conversations that we started to have with King College Prep. Because he had teachers who don't have a full teaching load, he wasn't anticipating that we would have any personnel costs because they're under their contractual obligation, based on their enrollment. But the biggest, barrier for that, I think, is just transportation and schedule. How students get there, how will they get back? I also met with Wayne Beavis, who is the principal of the virtual academy. Right now, they're only able to offer, math courses, algebra and geometry virtually. They have not been, approved for English. And those, will be the courses that we will be pursuing.
Thank you. So on Current Square, it was recommended that we attend some of the ongoing, coming CPS forums in different locations. I guess I misunderstood. I thought the budget was still up for debate, but it sounds like it's already been decided. How would you recommend we approach, or what advice would you give if we're going to attend the forum? What can we do to be more effective?
Well, at this, I'm gonna answer your question, but I'm gonna get her question, as in your question rolls in what I'm gonna say. So your question.
My last question, it was, specifically about that partnership that you're talking about and also the algebra hub. Have you guys looked into the algebra hub for next year?
Algebra, we're okay, because our middle school math teacher has the algebra enlistment, so we're okay with algebra. We were just trying to be creative with the schedule, so we could free up our interventionists, because if we were able to offer a virtual English 1 course, that would be one less section that somebody has to teach, so I could free up someone. So that was my way of trying to be creative.
And the other part of that conversation was about students, families exiting for the academic center and thinking about creative ways so students can get acceleration and get credit, because that's usually a draw for that. And that, I can say, we got a lot of parents that like, we have a record number of 6th graders staying in BCS. You should want to graduate from BCS, and then if you walk out with 2 or 3 high school credits, you are still just directly in line to be in that accelerated program at whatever high school you want, even those other selective enrollment schools. And in the neighborhood, they're pre the algebra hub and pre the virtual option, there were only 2 schools in the whole footprint that actually offered the 8th grade Algebra 1 credit through the Algebra 1, Algebra for All program.
I offered it, I'm the one advising.
Oh, you're the one, yes, the data was terrible, right?
I can do algebra hub if you need me.
That's right. Thank you.
That's
And before Steve gets into Stevenson, so I go to those meetings too, and it's just going and uplifting and saying you're a Brownsville classical parent. It's saying that you feel like the budgeting circles. The current meetings are about the strategic plan. Sometimes the CEO is at those meetings, the chief education officer is at those meetings. So anytime you can show up and say you're a Brownsville classical parent, say how this is impacting you, use some of this information and talk about it. I think that just being present and uplifting your concerns with those people in the room is super helpful. I would say that in general before Steve does whatever he does.
Yeah, exactly. And depending on the outcome here, there may be next steps of advocacy that we can take to try and get more support. So any more questions? All right, so there being not any more questions, I just want to take a point of personal privilege and read this into the record, and then we'll take it from there. So dear parents, students, and community stakeholders, at the outset, I would like to thank Principal Spicer, who has been a stalwart supporter of our families. She has worked extremely hard at moving things around and making them work as best she can despite the circumstances. I just want to make it clear for the record that the statement I'm about to make is in no way a reflection on Principal Spicer and should not be taken in that way. In fact, she has been the captain navigating us through tumultuous waters to help us get where we are. So thank you again for all you do and will continue to do to get us through this process. That said, earlier this month, CPS released school budgets for the 2024-25 school year, accompanied by promises of safeguarding successful investments and implementing equitable funding strategies. However, the reality starkly contradicts these assurances. As a parent deeply invested in the educational journey of my two sons at Bronzeville Classical and the children in our community, I witnessed firsthand the transformative power of quality education. Yet these budget cuts now loom threateningly, poised to undo years of progress and achievement. CPS claims that the fiscal year 25 budgets reinforce proven strategies such as learning acceleration, culturally responsive curriculum, and enhanced professional development. Well, let's dissect the truth. Under the new budget, we're left scrambling to fund a high-quality curriculum, and professional development opportunities are slashed due to financial constraints. While intervention and support may be salvaged through the heroic efforts of Ms. Spicer, it's not thanks to the district's allocation. Moreover, flexible funding touted as a solution tailored to students' needs has been significantly reduced, severely limiting our ability to address diverse student requirements. Emotional and behavioral support, supposedly prioritized in this budget, rings hollow when our counselor count falls below national and state standards. With an anticipated student population of about 460 or so students, we're left with one counselor, stretching them thin to address the crucial needs of our students' well-being. Even the assurances of keeping cuts away from the classroom feels like a cruel jest when without Principal Spicer's resourceful maneuvering, direct cuts would indeed mar our educational landscape. Instructional aides, teaching assistants are vital to classroom dynamics. They have been disproportionately effective. These budget cuts aren't just financial constraints, they're threats to our school's identity and success. They jeopardize the very essence of what makes Bronzeville Classical thrive. The implications of these budget decisions are dire, casting a shadow over our hard-won achievements and imperiling the future of our students. It is imperative that we speak out and demand better for the sake of our children and their educational journey. Under these circumstances, I find it impossible to endorse a budget that neglects our CIWP and fails to adequately support our families' needs. And for these reasons, I move that we do not approve the 2024-25 budget as presented. Is there a second? Motion been made and properly second. Any discussion?
Yeah, there is discussion.
Okay.
Okay, I don't understand what you just read, in my opinion, is not an express statement from the LSC per se, because that's not something that we pin together. But instead, an individual as a parent of BCS students' opinion and comment. So I guess I'm a little bit confused. So there was not a motion on the floor yet for the budget. What you just said was, I move that we don't. So I'm not sure if that's really an on the floor to accept the budget, and then there would be a second, and then you could have read your statement into the record.
Yeah, I think that may be how you have wanted to do it. I read a statement, and at the end of the statement, I made a motion to not approve it, and that motion is on the floor has been seconded.
Okay, I've never heard of a motion being made not to approve anything. I believe a motion needs to be brought to the floor, and if you vote not to approve it, is our parliamentary back on? Is the camera back on? Am I right, Pamela?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you. I'm here.
Okay,
So can you restate? I'm sorry. What is the question? Can you restate your question, please?
so, motion was not taken. So in other words, I understand the statement. I mean, I heard the statement. Again, I'm saying, I don't know if that was an express, a completely express statement of the LSC.
No, that was me. That was Stephen Mitchell, the
Okay,
parent.
that was you. Okay, so that was me. I get it. So I guess I'm just thinking that things were a little bit out of order here, that there was not a motion on the floor for the budget. He said he's making a motion not to accept the budget. I've never heard of not making a motion not to accept something that is not even on the floor yet, open for a vote. We can put the budget on the floor, second it, someone can motion, second it, and then he can vote in the negative, not to accept.
No, I think you can make a motion. I can make a motion to do whatever I want. You can make a motion to approve it. I wanted to make a motion to not approve it, and if that fails, then we won't approve it. If it goes, it will. It's up to you. I mean, but you can't say that I can't make a motion to do something. I made a motion to do it.
Did Dr. Poe chime in?
So, from my understanding, this motion is already on the floor.
And second.
It's not out of order. We could vote it down, and then the budget could be presented. So, since this motion has been moved and properly second already, we can call a vote. I thought that's what was just stated, so forgive me, because I.
Yes, the motion has been made and seconded.
Who made the motion to accept the budget?
I didn't make a motion to accept the budget. I made a motion to not accept the budget.
Right, and if somebody seconded it already, then it has been moved and properly seconded. We can go into discussion about it, we can take a vote. If this is voted down, if the majority of the council feels like they don't want to support it, they can vote it down, and we can bring a motion for the budget. But it's my understanding that this motion is not out of order. We just have to vote on it. You can vote your pleasure. If it's voted down, then we can bring up a motion, we can entertain a motion to approve the budget. That's my understanding.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't agree, but we can take a vote. Okay.
All right, is there any more discussion?
So the motion is to not approve the school year 25 budget.
As presented.
Discussion?
I would like to say, I think I would, I would speak against this motion only because I think we need to have a motion on the budget to
She
confirm.
clarified that.
No. I am speaking against the motion that's on the floor. And I'm saying, my opinion is that I think in order to get the result that you're looking for, we need to have a motion to approve the budget, and then everyone would have to vote it down. But I understand that there's a motion on the floor to not approve, and I would speak against that motion, so that we can vote in the affirmative and then deny it, if we so chose. So the motion should, I think the motion should be in the affirmative, and then we vote it down. I don't think we should affirm a negative motion.
Any more discussion?
I agree with Mr. Spears, because how am I wording this? Are we voting yes to vote?
No,
That's what
not to
you're
approve.
saying, but I see how it can be confusing, and so I agree it would be more clarifying if we vote to approve the budget, and then
Bring it back up.
Not to, not.
Close the discussion. Bring the new motion, and then.
Withdraw his motion. He already has proved he's not gonna withdraw his motion. Okay, next part of the discussion.
The
The result is result. Yeah.
Okay.
If somebody even makes that motion. Michael, I have a question about the logistics of, none of the logistics about the motions and parliamentary procedure, because that's just not my bag. There's nothing in the LSC handbook that says there's any consequences or problem with voting or approving the budget. Like what, there's approval of the budget. I'm curious on your end, when you have to submit the budget, are there prompts or something that says the LSC voted down or said yes? I know you have to
So
submit some
there's-
information.
There's a form that we just have to complete, regardless of what the vote is tonight, or what the vote is. Because this was something that I anticipated, I did ask that question, and I was told that LSC Relations would help us through that process if we did not approve the budget.
And who's our LSC relations person for Network for our network?
Marcus Pittman is our specialist, but there is a manager or a director.
Well, no. Prepare. I knew you was here. I was asking specific. I was asking for a specific on the system. Second.
All those in favor of closing discussion, please raise your hand.
Just officially closing discussion so we can. Don't worry about it.
Alright, so discussion is officially closed. All those in favor of not approving the 2024-25 budget as presented, please raise your hand. And I don't know what they're saying, I can't see what
Dr. Pope or Mr. Seals, Ms. Brown, are you all voting yes or no?
I'm voting it down.
Okay.
Because my hand is already.
Okay, thank
Alright,
you.
all those,
I just can't see Mr.
I don't
Seals.
know what the total yes is.
The total yeses, yes to not approve.
1, 2, 3.
2, 3, and who's online?
I think it's just three.
Just, okay, so 3 yes,
But hold on. It just went,
3 yes to not approve the budget.
okay, and all those no's. No's,
three,
Wait, who's
oh,
online?
Joyce is a no.
I'm standing.
With the abstention side.
alright, abstention,
That's no, that's no voting down motion, not no, not accept.
We got you to, oh, Ms. Brown, we still live and we do have an audience, so yes, I got you,
so we have 4 abstentions.
How many online?
No. Oh, Dr. Pope, are you abstaining?
Yes, that's an extension.
Okay, so 5 abstentions.
But that's only.
Mr. Seals did not vote.
So we have 4 yes,
We have three yes, 3 no's, and 4 abstentions.
That's only 10. 8 total.
Well, it was just the 4 of us.
It was 4
Oh,
abstentions.
and
And
Dr. Pope is 5.
5 abstentions.
So 5 abstentions.
And a
3
no
yes,
vote,
3
and
no.
a 0 vote. Seals didn't vote.
So that's 12, that's 12. I said,
But
oh,
now
no.
we're making another category and I just didn't vote.
Well, you can just note it. It's not a different category. Just note that Mr. Seals did not vote on that particular motion. He's at work, so he may
I just
be
wanna
working.
make sure.
Yeah.
Right.
so Dr.
Facts.
Right.
Facts.
Work, we have
Yeses
3 yes,
and 3
3
no's.
no's, and 5 abstentions.
And that the motion will fail because you don't have the majority. That's all you have.
Okay,
The only thing that we vote is a no vote.
so that motion fails.
Okay. So I move that we approve the presented FY25 budget.
Alright, the motion's been made and properly
Yes.
Alright, the motion has been made. The
We
motion.
can hear you, we can hear you.
So the motion has been made to approve the budget and has been seconded. Any discussion? Alright, there being no discussion, all those in favor of approving the 24-25.
Wait, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I see a hand, I just wanna make sure that hand, is it for discussion or is it for the actual vote? I believe you might have hand, but we're gonna call that out before we call the vote.
Oh, shit, you don't see that.
Okay, excuse me.
Alright, so there being none, all those in favor of approving the 2024-25 budget as presented, please raise your hand.
Ms. Brown is a yes. So that's one yes.
All those against approving the 2024-25 budget, please raise your hand.
So all those not in favor? That's no, no.
We just become a whole,
Is that 3 or 4?
oh no, I was just hand gesturing myself.
Is anybody online voting no, not to approve the budget?
Okay. Any abstentions?
So that's three no's.
1 yes, 3 no.
And abstentions?
All the CPS people.
Dr. Pope.
All the CPS.
So 7 abstentions.
That's representative,
No, Mr. Sealy.
it's community,
So
parent,
that fails.
teacher.
Yeah.
So
Deadlock.
the budget has not been approved.
Oh,
Yes, that is correct.
we're officially
Oh,
dysfunctional.
Mr. Sealy said he votes no. So it's 4 no's. So 1 yes, 4 no's, and 7 abstentions.
So the budget has not been approved. Alright, next we're gonna move on to public comment.
Yeah, I talked about that in the budget. Okay, so Mr. Stevens, I got a point of order.
Alright, is there any public comment?
I have a question.
Yes.
So you guys not approving the budget, does that mean that we won't get the funds until we have an approved budget, or what is ramifications does it have that we don't have it?
Well, thank goodness we have
That's
the
'cause I
executive
should-
director from LSC Relations, present. I think, Ms. Ford may be able to speak to that. The question on the floor is what happens, now that the LSC has not approved the budget?
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Happy Tuesday. So before I answer that question, 'cause I answered another question that no one asked me, but I'm gonna answer anyway. So typically when you do motions, you do them in the affirmative. You can make a motion wherever you want, but it confuses people when you do them in the negative, so they're typically made in the affirmative. So I move that we do this, I move that we do that. It makes it easier for people to understand and know what they're voting on. But to your point, you can make a motion to say anything, but just it helps it, people, it's understandable when you make it in the affirmative. So for related to the budget, so I'm not in the budget office, so I can't speak to what happens on the back end with monies. What I do want to encourage the council to do is to, whatever your areas of contention where you think the money should be spent in different places, come to common ground with things that you can live with. Dr. Spicer indicated the appeals for additional monies are not happening. And so what I don't want you to do is miss out on an opportunity to exercise your authority. So if there are things that Dr. Spicer can move around to your satisfaction that everyone can agree with, I would just really encourage you to exercise your authority. Don't not talk to David. Exercise your
need for our school. I mean, we're gonna do it. I mean, Ms. Paxton's already put it in place, but I wanna continue the fight. We appealed the budget, like she said, we got denied, but I don't wanna affirm that we're okay with getting this money and lacking the resources for our school.
And so I'll add a comment in here because it goes to the committee I'm in charge of, which is principal evaluation. Last year, only less than 40% of schools actually LSCs completed their principal evaluation. That's my understanding. That was a number that Jasmine said to us. Like, people work for complete.
It wasn't a dashboard, so.
It was a dashboard.
So the thing, we have a system.
I know, yeah, I know.
Everybody doesn't put in dashboard, so it doesn't, that's only 40% put in dashboard.
Put in dashboard.
It's not 40% that didn't do it, so
But that's part of the responsibility is putting the dashboard.
so the dashboard entry is optional.
Ah, interesting. Okay, well, tell Jasmine to check
Yeah, I
us up
can
because
tell her that.
she gave
Yeah,
bad
I can tell her
information.
that.
But knowing that the case, and also knowing a bunch of other schools, that there are things that are required that don't happen, and when they don't happen, nothing happens. There's no consequence for not doing it. The consequence comes up, for example, in principal evaluation, for example, if principal spikes us up for a contract, people haven't done their due diligence and done their evaluation, or we've evaluated, this has happened to Kenwood in the past, the LSC affirms a high evaluation for the principal, then the contract comes up, and then they start arguing about they don't want that principal anymore, and then year 4 in the contract year, they try to boot the principal out. And the question is, why did you evaluate them high those 3 years, and now you got a problem? So for me, looking through all the LSC materials and talking to other schools, so there's a public circumstance about 10 years ago, Audubon Elementary did not approve the budget for the same kind of reason. Hey, we don't approve this, we need some more money. I talked to one of the parents on the LSC today about that incident when that happened. And Audubon's a different demographic, different community, different circumstance, and they said, hey, nothing happened when we didn't approve the budget. As a matter of fact, what happened was, and this is in the article, you can Google it up and Google Audubon and CPS, LSC not approving the budget. They got more money by arguing about it in that circumstance, in that time, 11 years ago. Different financial time, different mayor, different CEO, different circumstance. So in my brain, I'm a former CPS employee, the past practice of what has happened before, there has been some activism on that side to say, hey, if we push back, maybe we'll get something. That has happened in the past. And I talked to somebody today because I was just trying to do my due diligence, knowing that this will happen as well today. So we also have a meeting next week, and we could just approve the budget next week and we move on. Or maybe something happens, maybe something magical happens. But we have another meeting next week. This is due to be submitted by tomorrow based on the whole city. But that's 600 students.
I think that's a hard question to actually answer. We are in a space right now where they are developing a strategic plan for the district for the next 5 years. I think this is like our 5th year on the strategic plan. So all the community meetings are really over to discuss and to get community input on the full district strategy. Not just dollars, not just, so all the things, the mission, the vision, all of it. So with that, like capital improvements, who needs what? So it's really more holistic, the meetings that are happening now. But annually, there is a budgeting time. And so we are in the budgeting time of like, this is what ISB is providing, this is what the federal government is providing, this is what we get from city revenue. All the revenues in place, this is the pot of money that we have, we're gonna disperse it into schools, and based on the autonomy of the school need, schools are able to make some decisions. The deadline for us to make a decision, I think is Friday, maybe tomorrow, but this week we have to submit. So for all intents and purposes, inside of like all the platforms, like I have allocated the way that I have presented this evening. So technically the budget is complete. However, one of powers of this body is to monitor and approve the budget. And so what this LSC is saying is that they don't approve of this budget because it's not going to meet our individual needs. It sounds like nothing may happen, something may happen, but the executive director from LSC Relations is here and has asked that question. There are other LSCs that have not approved their budget, so I don't know what the response is going to be. This is only my second year having an LSC, so I don't have any precedent to reference. So I'm just not sure. But I do think that, it's important that we do what's best for what we think the school community needs. And so for me, I think it's important that we just do what's best for the school.
And just so you know, I've asked lots of people this very question at CPS and everywhere, and I have not gotten an answer. So, and one thing we forgot to mention, guys, there's a House Bill 303 that it passed the House down in Illinois, and it's up for the Senate. That bill it basically provides for no changes in admissions criteria, closing of school, or our budget. It looks like hopefully it will pass the Senate. Now, how that will be implemented and executed and what that means, we don't know. But it supposedly is to preserve our standard of what we've had and not any significant cuts to our budget. So you'll probably hear more about that as well.
Until
That's
Until
I need to
27.
ask some questions online. We have some questions online, I think.
Yes, you can hear you, Ms. Brown.
So, my takeaway from this is, what we're motioning to approve the budget is based on how this year has delegated those funds into every line item that you came up with. The money that's coming in is the money that's coming in. I don't know if you think about that, because Wayne said maybe not. I just don't understand why we can't support our principal for all of her efforts that she put forth to reinforce this budget for today and now, for what we need to do.
Yeah, the discussion's been closed, that motion has been passed. And we are supporting our principal and everything. I said that out the outset. The comments are over with. The comments are over with, the motion's been passed. I mean, it's been denied.
Dr. Paul, can you please step in to see how can we navigate this? Because like Ms. Brown, if you want to, I hear that you're making a general comment, but I don't think that we should discuss the motion because the discussion on the motion is closed. But I do want you to feel free.
I guess it's probably the question for the individuals that from district or wherever she was from. Am I clear that the budget that we were voting on is that basically the budget where our principal has delegated the appropriated funds that are coming into the school? Is that what we're voting for? Or are we voting for like states better wherever the money comes in to the school? That's what I'm trying to ask you. The question came up, what does he do?
So
I'm trying to get some clarification.
she said, Ms. Brown is asking, one of our parent representatives, participating virtually. She is asking, are we voting to approve how I've allocated the money?
So it's not about approving what the district gave you, right? The district gave you this set of money and all the others got set money. You did the appeal, there's no other funds coming based on the appeal. And so you're voting on how Dr. Spicer allocated the available funds.
Future Dr.
You're
Spicer.
about to be a new doctor.
Yeah, future Dr. Spicer.
So, I mean, I understand that like the advocacy
goes 11 years ago.
You're right.
Definitely, I don't want you to hedge your bets on something else happening. And so like, again, I'm gonna say, exercise your authority. There are points about how she allocated that problems with. You all can talk that out, but you don't want to use your authority. And she laid out a good plan, but there's something about the plan you don't like, then you all talk about it.
So we approve the budget, and then.
As presented by Dr. Smith.
No, I'm just saying, so if we approve that budget, then it's just basically saying, okay, we good with what y'all gave us. So
So
what
you can
point do
still
you
say
have
you're
money?
not happy, you can still advocate, no one's saying you gotta sit down and put your hands.
But I mean, but it's a new point, it's even more of a new point, at least we're standing for something and saying we don't agree. Now,
So
do
you're
we come
taking
back
a
in the money?
chance that something else, some more money's gonna come.
I mean, what's the worst case scenario? We get what we got. I mean, I'm just asking.
That's the worst case
question.
scenario, but
That's a question. I mean, that's a question. I'm not
so
trying to
on
challenge you.
philosophical reasons or grounds, you're saying no. And that's your
Not
choice.
philosophical.
Not, when I'm saying, I'm not philosophical in the sense that you don't agree with fundamentally how the funds, what funds you have. That's a philosophical difference. You
No,
don't
that's a
agree.
that's not
I get
philosophy,
it, it's
that's
both.
factual.
It's both. It's factual, it's also philosophical. It's based on, schools got money based on certain factors, and you don't agree with those factors. We're saying the same thing, it's fine.
Mr. Seals online has something to say. Mr. Seals?
Mr. Seals? I guess, do we have public comments? Cause I got somebody sent me a text.
Mr. Seals, did you have a question? Oh, he said I can't hear the part.
I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting.
All right, motion's been made and probably seconded to close the comments. All those in favor? I mean,
Close the meeting.
Oh, we had, okay, what about the CIW?
Oh, we voted on that already. That was 12 yeses.
Oh, we voted down.
Yeah, I voted before. I'm sorry, that was out of order. But that was 12 yeses, is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mr. Seals, are you trying to say something? Do you want to call somebody? You put your speakerphone?
Oh,
You can't hear? There's already a motion on the floor, Ms. Brown, to close the meeting, so I think we would have to have discussion, for that and then call the vote.
All right, so motion been made.
I think Mr. Spears made the motion to close it, no,
Mr. Davis.
Dr. Davis made the motion to close the meeting and Mr. Spears seconded.
All right, so any more discussion on closing the meeting? There being none.
I would ask that the person who made the motion consider that motion for an additional motion.
No.
Dr. Davis said no.
Okay. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor of closing the meeting, please raise your hand. Any noes for closing the meeting? Any abstentions?
One.
All right, that motion passes. Thank you all. Next meeting is Wednesday, May 8th